With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Oklahoma On Stage, your allergy-ridden place for all things theater in the great state of Oklahoma. I'm Tim. I'm your host as we journey through this magical world that we call theater. Today we're kicking off a new series. It's our summer sizzler, if you will. It's our mid-season marathon, where starting this week, we're going to have an episode every week with a different guest, and we've got some great people lined up, and I know you're going to love it. So I hope you tune in and really enjoy all of this stuff we've got going on with theater. We appreciate you joining us. If this is your first time, be sure and find us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, our website is oklahomaonstage.org. There you can find all of our past episodes, a newsletter that's coming out soon, as well as a monthly calendar of events all around the state. If you'd like to add an event, a production, or an audition to the calendar, just email us at oklahomaonstage@gmail.com. Also, send us any comments or questions that you might have to the same email, or you can use the contact form on the website. We'd like to ask that if you like what you hear on the Oklahoma On Stage podcast, be sure and leave us a rating and a review. That helps people find us. Again, thank you for joining us. Now let's jump into our interview for this week.
Oklahoma On Stage, the stories come alive with drama, dance, and music. The arts always thrive. From center stage to backstage lore, Oklahoma On Stage, there's always something more.
Welcome back, everybody, to Oklahoma On Stage, your go-to source for all things theater in the state of Oklahoma. I am joined today by a gentleman who I have never actually met, but have known of for quite some time. My wife had the lovely opportunity to actually perform in a production with him. The man sitting across from me is a directing member of Upstage Theatre in Edmond, Oklahoma. He is also the director of the theater department at Edmond Memorial High School. Welcome to the podcast, Patrick Towne.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Patrick, just a little bit, let's just start this all out. How did you get started in theater?
So I got started in theater through church choir. When I was 6, we lived in Chickasha, Oklahoma, and my parents put me in the church choir because they knew I had a love for music, and one of the ladies who was the director of that was also a member of the Chickasha Community Theater. I believe she was on the board at the time. Christy Jernigan was her name. She may still be there. I'm not sure. But anyway, she went to my parents and she said, hey, he should come audition for this show that we're doing. So I did, and I had no idea what I was doing, and just went and ended up getting the role of Tiny Tim in Scrooge the Musical. And that just kind of got me hooked, and did a couple more shows with Chickasha. And then we moved up to Edmond for my dad's job, and got involved with a theater here called On Broadway, that was sort of kind of like Upstage. It was a training center for kids, primarily K through 12. And then subsequently got involved with Lyric Academy before it was Thelma Gaylord. It was just Lyric Academy, and got involved there, and got involved with Oklahoma City University in their summer music programs, and did shows at Jewel Box and the Pollard Theater, and just really immersed myself in every opportunity that I had in the area, and have just really never stopped. Did theater in high school, was very into my high school theater program and the productions there, and then went to college for musical theater. I was at OCU for 2 years, then transferred to UCO, was musical theater there for a year, then finally transferred to theater education at UCO, which is where I graduated from. And that whole time doing community theater, getting involved here at Upstage, and just taking every opportunity that I could. So it has been my life since I was 6, with really no breaks, really no stopping. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, that's a full life already.
Yeah.
You've done a lot more than most of us have in a very short amount of time.
I like to stay busy. Yeah.
Awesome. So, is there a particular show or experience that happened early on that inspired you to move in this direction?
Well, like I said, I really loved the music aspect of it. I was always, when I was younger, I was much more interested in the singing parts of theater. And then when I was, it wasn't really until I was a freshman, I think I was just finished my freshman year, I did a production of Sweeney Todd at OCU, their summer musical theater camp. And that summer, I really fell in love with myself in the acting aspects of musical theater. And really, that's what I think got me to the point where I knew I wanted to do this forever. I love music, and music is the foundation of my training and everything that I do. But there was sort of a paradigm shift where I decided and really got enamored and fascinated and interested in the acting aspects of theater. And so I think without that shift, I don't know that I would have stayed so dedicated to music and to musical theater itself. I might have gone more a choral director route, or in some sort of music, instrumental, or choral, or something like that, and the theater side might not have stayed with me, had that acting aspect of it not really grabbed hold of me. So that's sort of, when I look back, the moment where I think I started to take it really seriously. I mean, I always took it probably too seriously as a kid. I was always that kid, that took it so seriously that I drove everyone else crazy. But I look at that moment as sort of a turning point for me.
Very nice. It's always good to have those distinct moments that shape us. So,
for sure.
Okay, so do you have a favorite role that you've ever played, and what made that role so special?
This is a tough one, because at different points of my life, I would give you different answers to this. There are a few, when I look back, that meant something to me, and that made it my favorite of the time. The role I just mentioned was Toby in Sweeney Todd, and that was sort of the first role where I felt like I could actually act. I took myself seriously as an actor. And so for a while, I probably would have told you that one. And then when I was in high school, I did a production of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying and played J. Pierpont Finch. And my mother will still tell you that's her favorite role that I've ever done. And that was really the first role where I remember thinking, like, I am the leader of this company, and what does that look like and how do you set that example? And so for a while, that was my favorite. Then when I was in college, I did a production of The Last 5 Years with I was actually here at Upstage and played Jamie. And that just ticked all the boxes. It was, you got to sing this amazing score and the material was rich and you really got to dig your teeth into the characterization. And it's a two-person musical. So there's so much time and so much material given to you specifically. And that was a great challenge and something that I was very proud of. But now, as we're sitting here, I would probably say that my favorite role was the show that I did with your wonderful wife, and that was Quasimodo in Hunchback at Shawnee Little Theater. And that is my favorite for a variety of reasons. It was the first role I'd played in about 5 or 6 years, so it was my first time getting back on stage in a while. It was a role that I had always wanted to play. Hunchback Notre Dame is my favorite Disney movie. I'm a big Disney nerd. And I saw the movie in theaters when I was very, very young. And it was a story, it was a character that I always connected with. So just getting the opportunity to perform that role in that show and not have any creative responsibility. I wasn't also the choreographer and I wasn't also, this, that, or the other, that has often kind of accompanied some things. So I really just got to focus on myself as the performer, as the actor. I met some incredible people there. The directors and I got along so well. We're very similar in the way we direct and approach directing and approach just shows in general. I loved their vision. I loved the way that they worked with us. I mean, it was just a pretty perfect experience from start to finish. And it was also a reminder to myself that there is more, that I still got it, that I could still do it, and so that was nice. That was a nice reminder. So at the moment, I would probably say that one, but ask me again in 5 years, might be something completely different.
Always changing.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest challenge you have ever faced in a performance, and how did you overcome that?
Well, again, if you're asking as a performer, that would be different than as a director. I think that as a director, you face more challenges, especially external challenges. Navigating a cast in a community theater setting is in and of itself a whole journey, because you have so many different personalities, first off, but you also have so many different levels of experience and so many different reasons why those individuals are there. You are trying to put on the best production possible, but usually with community theater, most of it's volunteer, so you want to make sure they're having a good time and enjoying themselves. You want to make sure you're handling everyone in the appropriate professional way while still maintaining a safe, relaxed, fun atmosphere. There's a whole dynamic to directing, especially in community theater, that can be challenging. And you never know who's going to walk through the door. You never know who's going to audition. And so your approach could change. You might go into a show, your pre-production phase of a show, planning it one way, then you see who auditions, you see what your cast ends up being, you have to change directions, you have to make it work with the cards that you're dealt, and every show's different, at least in my experience. Whereas being a teacher of a theater program, you sort of know the kids that you're going to be pulling from, that you're going to be casting from. You have a better idea of their training because you have hopefully given them a lot of their training. That you see more of the factors beforehand. So, but we're talking about teaching teenagers, which just comes with its whole other set of factors. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but I think it just depends on what the circumstances are. And I think that is the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is adapting to the factors, the variables that are given to you in any production that you approach.
Adaptability, the single biggest trait of any director.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we know as teachers, most of our material, I guess, usually comes from personal experience. So when you have been on stage, have you ever had a moment when something went completely off the rails, completely wrong? And how did you recover?
Of course, all the time. That's part of the fun, right? Isn't it?
It is live theater after all.
Yeah. It's secretly why some of us do it. I think it's just to see what's going to happen. Yes, I mean, an early memory I have is I was doing a production of Footloose. I was in the 4th grade, and I'd never worn overalls before. My character was given overalls, and for some reason, maybe it was a new costume. It was a long time ago. I don't really remember. But anyway, I didn't realize that you had to, when you hooked overalls, you were supposed to pull them, right, so that they latched and attached. So I walk out, for my first scene there. I'm in my little cowboy hat, my little overalls. And I'm doing my scene, and the other character starts singing a song, and I was supposed to stand there. And all of a sudden, I just feel the overalls slide and fall down. And obviously I was wearing, a costume shirt underneath it, but I was not wearing any bottoms because I was wearing overalls. I mean, I was wearing a form of bottoms, but I didn't, Anyway, so there I was, 4th grade, literally your worst nightmare come true. You're out there in your underwear in front of an audience. And I always think of that as the first time that I was aware that, like, oh, things can go wrong, and what are you going to do to fix them, And that was a pretty bad one, and definitely, gives you a complex moving forward. But gosh, there's been so many, props break, or people go up on their lines, or when you're working with tracks, they skip, they stop, they jump, they you get stuck in a vamp. I mean, they're just so all those classic things. But I think that what you learn is a life skill. So this is something that I think theater skills are life skills, and I think if you can apply it to theater, you can apply it to life. And so this idea of not taking it too seriously unless it needs to be taken seriously. But I'm a big lover of those moments and being able to laugh about them. As long as no one's hurt, and as long as everyone's okay and everything's all right in that regard. Those are some of my fondest memories, is looking back on that. And then how do you get yourself out of it? Which is another skill that I think is important to learn. And some people do it really well. I don't know that I'm one of those people. I tend to giggle. I tend to hide my face. I tend to turn red, and all of those things. But I've worked with some incredible people who just take those situations and flawlessly get you back on track, and they're masters of that. So again, I feel like I don't know that I really answered your question, but I think that that first one is the one that sticks with me, even probably 25 years later. So clearly that was traumatic.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But you've recovered well. So
I have, yeah.
Okay, so continuing on that learning from experience and things like that, do you have any specific techniques or rituals that you use to prepare for a role?
For a role? Well, like I said, I don't perform a lot anymore. Really, for me, things have shifted more towards directing. But I will say that the first thing I always do is pull from the text what I can, right? And this is something I teach my students. So going to the text and figuring out what author's intent is and what are your non-negotiables and what are your things that are set in stone and all that. And then building outwardly from there. I'm a big physical person. I really love being able to change myself physically, and whether that's just where I hold myself, how I walk, the pace of my speech, or those kinds of things. For me, that is an easier access point to developing a character. So I always try to start there first, right? Like, how am I going to physically, and with something like Quasimodo, there was a big physical change with that. Sometimes it's more subtle, sometimes it's, maybe not even something other people would notice, but just being able to feel that change in my body helps me take myself out of myself a little bit, and makes the mental and psychological development easier. So that's how I always like to start.
I did notice you walking differently as we came in.
Oh,
so,
did you?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yes. Well, I'm just practicing for my next one. Yeah. So I would say that. I would say starting with the text, I always start there, gathering information from that, and then physicality, and then just building from there is what I have learned works for me the best.
Excellent. So how does your experience as an actor, talking about all of that, how does that influence your directing style?
Oh my gosh, completely influences it. And I am not, I don't believe you have to be an actor to be a good director, but for me, I couldn't be the director that I am had I not started in acting first. And I took everything that I learned as an actor and apply it to directing.
The good and the bad.
Absolutely, the good and the bad. And even just how do you talk to actors? How do you work with actors, right? I mean, I've had incredible directors and teachers in my life that I think I want to emulate that. I want to, copy that. And then I've had directors that I did not mesh with, that I did not get along with always. And so for me, it's like, okay, those are things I'm going to be aware of that I don't want to emulate, and then just in terms of, what your priorities are as a director, and what do you want to spend your time on? Because directing is so multifaceted, right? You've got your hand in every single pot: design, actors. I do my own choreography because I'm a glutton for punishment, and so there's just so many things you're juggling, and often it's easy to lose sight of what your main intention is in even putting on this production in the first place. So approaching directing with an actor brain, especially when I was a younger director, a new director, that was what got me there. That was how I was able to even figure out how to put all these pieces together. So for me, I take everything I learned as an actor, and use it when I'm directing. And that can even just be, the countless hours of tap and ballet and jazz that I had. And then that, has allowed me to do my own choreography, which is just, something I like doing, because for me, I like the physical aspect of the show. And I primarily direct musicals. So the physical aspect of the show to be the same. Right. And for me, that's that's just a pet peeve of mine. That's just a thing that's important to me. That and wigs and shoes. I don't know why, but that, so those are things that I want the physical look and feel of the show to be the same from top to bottom. So, so I'll do my own choreography. I couldn't do that if I hadn't had 13 years of tap, ballet, jazz, and all of those things. So I use all those skills every day.
Very good. Okay, so now shifting into our next part,
Yeah.
I've actually made a note here that
Okay.
I made sure to remember to bring up. Just very recently, Edmond Memorial High School won a Kelly O'Hara Award for the Outstanding Musical Performance of Children of Eden. So congratulations
Thank you
on
so
that.
much. Thank you.
I understand you also had a student who was honored with the Spotlight Award.
Yes. We Berlin Fleury was one of our memorial students who won a Spotlight Award. Yes.
So congratulations on that
Thank
as
you very
well.
much.
So I mean, it's just kind of a testament to your directing ability and your
Thank you.
teaching ability.
Thank you.
Because
I
there
appreciate
is
that.
a bit of a difference
Mhm,
between
for sure.
teaching and directing.
Absolutely.
I've known some good teachers that weren't great directors.
Yes.
I've also known some good directors that weren't very good
Yes.
teachers.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
but the greats can put the two together. So, what would you say is the most rewarding part of teaching high school theater, and how does that compare to performing on stage?
I love performing, and when there are roles and when there are shows that I feel is something I need to do, hopefully I'll in the future, go audition for them. But for me, teaching is the greatest calling that I have ever had in my whole life. And the reason I say that is because for me, kind of something I mentioned earlier, when you teach theater, you get to teach about life, and you get to teach kids about empathy and walking in other people's shoes and listening to other people's stories and making them think outside of themselves and making them explore how they can take their art to heal and help and teach audiences. And so for me, teaching theater is a bigger calling than just teaching them how to act or teaching them Stanislavski or whatever, it is. But it's teaching them how to be the best version of themselves, the best person that they can be. And specifically when you're teaching high school, I always think that's kind of the last couple years of their lives, before they catapult into adulthood. And so you're really at this precipice a lot of times with kids on who are they going to be, who are they going to be in their communities, in their families, in their friend groups. And I think that you use theater as a tool to make them the best, the kindest, the most well-rounded that you can. And so, I mean, it's no comparison. If I had to give up one, I would be a teacher in a heartbeat. And like I said, performing is wonderful, and my mother will always want me to perform. But I think that the greater calling to just our community, our world, our little piece of the country, our whatever you want to think, is with teaching right now, and specifically with teaching high school. So yeah, I think that for me, it's the greater purpose, it's the greater calling.
So talking about purpose and all of that, what do you consider are some of the biggest challenges to high school theater programs today?
I think that the challenges of high school theater programs are probably the challenges of most athletic teams, most academic teams. Obviously, it's a different sport, quote unquote, that you're working on, right? It's a different kind of team, but the interpersonal relationships between the kids can often cause conflicts and things to trickle and filter through. I might sound like an old curmudgeon here, but social media, and the ability that they have to send things back and forth so rapidly, and it can obviously cause issues, and the ability to think before you, or to act before you think, right, with what you're sending and saying. So I would say overall, when we have issues in our program, and we're very lucky that our issues are usually pretty superficial, right? And now my kids who are listening to this might disagree, or their parents might disagree, but in hindsight, right, the problems are usually pretty small. But it usually stems from those kind of issues. in terms of just theater itself, you're always going to deal with, people disagreeing with the way you cast a show, people disagreeing with, the kid you pick for this or that or the other. And that is something that I think just comes with the territory. And it's something that you as the teacher have to learn how to navigate, and you have to learn to trust your own training, trust your own experience, trust your own gut sometimes. And I have found that when I do that, 9 times out of 10, everything comes out okay. But, everyone's got an opinion, and now everyone has an Instagram, a Facebook to share said opinion, or whatever. And so those kind of things can sometimes cause issues, cause you headaches, cause you to have to go to a meeting, cause you to have a phone conversation, and that can be tiresome as a teacher. But I would guess that the same is true in any sort of arena where you're dealing with teenagers, parents, and opportunities that you are giving, or in their view, not giving to the kid.
Okay. And it makes perfect sense. Everybody's got a platform these days.
Yes.
Case in point.
Right.
So shifting into our current atmosphere, this is a very good space, by the way.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Upstage Theatre.
So Upstage Theatre was started in 2011 by Brett and Jenny Rottmeyer, who are the owners. And they started the community theater here in Edmond. And, the original mission and goal was for it to be a place of training for youth that were interested in music, theater, dance. And then there was this additional community theater side of it that was, added in the winter months and in the summer months. So I would say that the genesis of it was pretty traditional and follows the same philosophies and intentions that, so many of our local community theaters do. And, we've grown and expanded physically and with our kids, and even with our community theater productions and over the years. And, we've done giant, huge shows and very, very small, intimate things and everything in between. And, one thing that's important to us is trying to offer something for everybody. So we obviously have our production classes, and those shows are geared towards, students in grades K through 12. And then we do our community theater productions. And usually in the winter month, we try to do what we call our grown-up production. So something with content that's a little more mature and, not for the kids, but more for the grown-ups. And then in the summer, we always try to do something either family-friendly or something that's kind of, we've really gotten into this thing recently where we like to do these shows that are not maybe done all the time, and kind of explore what that's like, to offer something that, there is nothing wrong with Shrek. I love Shrek. I've been in Shrek, but we're not, we just kind of got to a point where we were like, do we want to be the 5th or 6th production of Shrek, in Oklahoma in the past, years? And there is a time and place for that, and it makes money, and power to anyone who does Shrek. I'm not dogging Shrek, but so something like Sideshow, which we're currently working on, is not a show that's done often in the metro area. OCU's done it, UCO's done it, but we're definitely the first theater to do it in the past 5 or 6 years, maybe apart from OCU. I can't remember when they did it, but so that's something that's kind of become an unintentional goal of ours, is to say, what can we offer? Because there are so many community theaters now, and that really, yeah, there's so many, and people have so many options, right? People have so many choices, and so I always think, okay, well, what can we offer that is going to be different, right? Like, and what can we offer that somebody else maybe isn't going to offer? And that's just something, again, over the past couple of years, really since COVID, when everybody had to start getting real creative with everything, that we've just sort of opened up, and we've really enjoyed choosing and picking these shows that are a little bit off the beaten path, and but exciting as well.
That's good. I can't imagine, there's theaters everywhere. I was telling everybody when I first started this project that I made the announcement, and before the first week was out, I had over 50 theaters just signed up to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know we had 50 theaters in the state.
I know, right?
Now going into over 125 theaters
Holy
on my
moly,
list.
that is wild.
Now that includes, universities and
Sure.
things as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm still getting ones coming in, and so it's like I didn't know there were theaters in these locations.
I did not know there were 125.
Yeah, it's quite impressive.
Wow.
So what drew you? You brought up Sideshow
Yeah.
just now. What drew you to that show?
I knew the music. It was a show that I had bought the record of when I was younger, or was given the record of, or someone told me, hey, you should listen to this. So the original Broadway soundtrack with Alice Ripley and Emily Skinner, I mean, when I was a kid, I listened to it. Did I know what the show was really about? Sort of. Did I really get it all? Not really, but it has great music. So I just enjoyed, listening to the music. And then when I was at UCO 10, 11 years ago now, they did a production of it, and Greg White directed it, and I went and saw it, and I thought, this is a really good story. It is flawed in its construction somewhat. There are parts of it that are a little convoluted, it's a little confused at moments on what it's trying to be. But for me, that is really exciting theater. When I think, okay, how can I make this work? How can I solve this in a way that I think makes more sense or will register with an audience better? As a director, that's where I actually get really excited, right? So what we're doing is the revival version that came out in 2014. And so they've cleaned it up a little bit. They've added more dialogue. They've mainstreamed the story of the girls a little bit more, rather than kind of trying to also include these side path stories that the original did. Anyway, so I think what drew me to the show is the music, first off. But as a director, also just this idea of having two actresses who have to be attached for the whole show without any kind of trickery, just with the physicality of their body, is something as a director you think, that would be interesting to explore, right? What could I do with that? Or how am I going to direct that? And that's something I'm still exploring and working through. And so there are things about Sideshow that are just intriguing in ways that other shows don't offer. And so the excitement of exploring all that, but so far it's been really fun.
Okay. So what do you hope that audiences take away from this show?
I hope that when people come and see Sideshow, what they leave with is a glimpse into the way that we as a society treat people specifically who look different than we do, who don't fit the quote unquote normal physical attributes of our society. Because in the show, Daisy and Violet Hilton, who are these conjoined twins, are pretty much used by every other character, at least every other main character in the show, for some sort of personal wealth or fame, or and one of the kind of heartbreaking parts is they find everyone very sincere and genuine, and there is some of that in it as well, but a lot of the characters, I think, especially when you get into Act 2, start to feel very guilty about the way they've used these girls and their abnormality to gain something personal for themselves. So I think the whole show is a comment on that. It's, are we exploiting people who are different for some sort of personal gain? And I think the show asks that questions in a lot of different ways. And then it also deals with how people who look different, feel different, how they struggle to fit in. in society. You know, the show's set in the 20s and 30s. And so it's not just the attractions, as we call them, from the sideshow, but it's also characters of different, races and ethnicities and, sexual orientations and these kind of things, and how those characters deal with hiding or navigating the world with everybody knowing these things about them. So there's a lot of very psychological journeys to explore in the show, which makes it interesting.
So have you had any standout moments during rehearsals so far?
Well, we start staging tonight, so we'll see what can come of that. But the cast, we did a sing through on Saturday, and the cast is just singing their tails off. I mean, the music is difficult. I mean, it's a big sing, and they sound amazing. And so I think that vocally, it's very exciting. We're using a live band, which we at Upstage don't always get the opportunity to use. And so that's exciting. So I think the sound of the show is going to be really powerful. And I think that's going to be one of its strengths of this specific production.
Okay. My wife and I got the pleasure to actually listen to the music of the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
We were on the road, and I don't know if you have Sirius XM or not,
Uh-huh.
but late night on Broadway,
Yes.
they have they'll play the whole of a show, and they were doing sideshow.
Yeah.
We were on our way back from Stillwater. We had just seen Alice by Heart.
Oh, okay.
And so we were on our way back, and it was on. I was we're good. This is So we were listening.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good music. I was very impressed. So
it's good.
It's an interesting story. Which, speaking of, do you have twins?
We don't have biological twins, but we have two incredible actresses who look very much alike and are.
Was that part of your casting for that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. There always has to be a degree of believability, right? So if you've got two actresses who are playing twins, then you need some sort of believability, and wigs and costumes and makeup can do a lot, but these two actresses. And what's interesting is, although we did have them sing together in callbacks, the music director Jordan Andrews and I have really discovered over this past week that they can sound very almost like one voice when they sing together.
Wow.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And kind of just an added bonus. So they're going to be really good.
Looking forward to it. Okay, so transitioning just a bit and looking forward, where do you see theater in Oklahoma heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that theater is obviously, with the number you threw out of 125 theaters, including universities and all those things, but there's definitely a growth happening, which is exciting and somewhat, I'm going to say, interesting, because, obviously theater, especially community theaters, only exist when people come to audition for the productions, right? And so, just a discussion I've had with my friends and who, some of whom are just people who go perform in community theaters, some work at other community theaters, some work at universities. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 6. I know a lot of people. And so, I'm always interested to hear where different people are at with their programs, with their shows, with their productions. And I do think that, the demand of 125 theaters is that you have enough actors to support that many productions, because most theaters do 3, 4, sometimes I think some theaters do 7 to 8, shows a year. That's a lot, right? Especially if you've got a 9-to-5 job, or if you've got a family that one needs you at home and everything. It's so I don't know that I can honestly say I know where theater will be in Oklahoma. I hope that theaters are continuing to thrive and people are continuing to go see shows, because that's the other part of it, right? You got to have people be in the shows, but you also have to have people come see the shows. And universities are maybe a little bit different, nonprofits, those kinds of things. But, at the end of the day, community theaters are a business. And so if people aren't coming in to see your shows, that revenue is not coming in, that can make things tricky. So I hope that our community, Oklahoma as a community, continues to value and put value on theater. And the same way we put value on other forms of entertainment. And I won't be more specific than that, so as to keep myself out of trouble. But I hope that theater in Oklahoma maintains something that people continue to support, because without the community, without our communities supporting the theater, whether that's by auditioning, going to see shows, it can't survive. And that is a concern that I have, and I think lots of people have, and as things and prices inflate, the price of lumber, the price of paint, the price of rights, the price of, whatever it might be, then, okay, do you have to adjust your ticket prices? Well, then, the higher you make your ticket prices, are you leaving out a socioeconomic group that maybe can't afford a $50 ticket? So there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that I think go into just making a theater run, and making it sustainable. So my biggest hope is that people will continue to make supporting theater a priority in their households, in their communities. And I think if they do that, then theater will just continue to grow and thrive in Oklahoma.
Excellent. So we talked about theater in Oklahoma, so let's bring this home a little bit. What are your personal goals as a director and educator over the next 5 or 10 years? And more importantly, is there a dream production that you would love to tackle?
That is a question I get asked often. I have been lucky, very lucky, and so much thanks to Upstage, where I have gotten to direct lots of dream shows. And so I will always be very, very grateful and thankful to that. At school, I'm a little more limited on the types of shows, just for a wide variety of reasons, obviously. But here I really get to do things like Sideshow, or, Title Show that we just did, or Fun Home, or Carrie, or some, just Evita, some of these shows that I don't know that they would work very well at a high school, but, I was just sort of given the blessing to do them here. And so I'll always be thankful for that. Is there a dream show? Yes, there are many. I would love to direct Ragtime. I would love to direct Aida. I would love to direct Once on This Island. I would love to direct Sunset Boulevard. I would love to direct, Next to Normal. I would love to direct Spring Awakening. I would love to direct The Bridges of Madison County, one of my favorite shows. There's just a lot, yes, that are still kind of left to tackle out there. And then there are shows that, before I get to a certain age, I hope to still get to be in. So, so in terms of for myself, I really have been very fortunate to have the opportunities that I've had so far in my short little life. And I love my school that I teach at. And it's funny, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I went to Memorial. Memorial is where I graduated. So
you're a golden boy.
Yes, that's right. So, it is really a place that has just always been so near and dear to my heart, and really gave me so much as a student there. Not just the theater department, not just the choir department, but the things it taught me about myself as a person, the friends, the relationships I had. It gave me a lot. So I have loved being able to give back to the school over the past few years. So hopefully, in 5 to 10 years, I will still be using theater as a way to make people and make the world better. I don't know what that looks like. I kind of don't love giving myself like deadlines because sort of those kind of goals, because I never ever reach them. It seems like life always takes me in a different direction. And so I like to keep my goals a little more broad, a little less specific. If I'm still doing exactly what I'm doing in 5 years, I will be a lucky person. If I get opportunities to do other things, and they work with my schedule, and there's something that I find interesting and something I feel like I can contribute to, hopefully I'll take those opportunities. If the opportunities, start to sort of diminish in their quantity a little bit, that's all right too. Again, I've been very lucky, and I hope that, I've taken every opportunity and given it my best. And hopefully that has resulted in good theater being produced and people having good experiences, and students learning about themselves, about the craft, and again, giving something to our community that I feel makes it better. And so if I can continue to do that, I will be very happy.
Great. Okay, so we're talking about live theater.
Yeah.
So you always got to be on your toes.
Yeah.
So I always try to end my interviews with some curveball questions. Okay, so, and yours aren't too horrible. I've come up with some interesting ones before, but this one's okay. These are kind of okay.
Okay.
If you weren't involved with theater, what career would you pursue?
Okay, I have two answers for this. Meteorology, which I know is very random, but I am fascinated with the weather. I have more weather apps on my phone than you can shake a stick at. I love and will nerd out about meteorology any day of the week. So if I was better at science, and if I was maybe more disciplined as a student, meteorology. And then the other thing that I would find really interesting would be being a therapist, being a counselor of some kind, because I actually think that a lot of acting is psychological exploration. And so, why is this character doing that? Okay, you just change character to person, and it's kind of the same path you're walking down. So I find people really interesting, and why people do what they do and what makes them the way they are and who they are. I find that really interesting. So probably I would either be a meteorologist or a therapist.
I tell people all the time, theater is my therapy. So
yeah, for sure.
Okay, second one, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Probably It's All Coming Back to Me Now by Celine Dion.
Okay, all right.
I don't do karaoke like that often, but I feel like that's my like jam in the car, like roll the windows down, just kind of scream it out. So I feel like I could rock that in some karaoke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. What advice would you give to aspiring actors who want to pursue theater?
Take every opportunity that you're given. Listen, absorb, ask questions, work really hard, take the art really seriously, and try not to take yourself so seriously.
That's good. I like that. Okay, so Upstage Theatre. If somebody wants to get involved with Upstage Theatre, how do they do that?
They just come and audition. Our door is always open. We have obviously a website, upstagetheatreok.com. We're active on Instagram and Facebook. We always post about our auditions. We have a newsletter, a digital newsletter, because that's the world we live in now, that goes out with information about shows and auditions coming up. And then if they have kids in the Edmond area or Oklahoma City or Guthrie or wherever that want to get involved, we have signups we have summer camps coming up, and then obviously our fall and spring productions. We're doing The Lightning Thief for our kids next season, and we're doing Bat Boy is our winter musical. Then in the spring we're doing Diary of a Wimpy Kid for our middle schoolers, Big Fish School Edition for our high schoolers, and then our summer musical next year is Chess. So we've got a lot of theater coming up and a lot of exciting things happening. But yeah, they just sign up, enroll, put their name on a sign-up genius. I feel like we are a very good place to jump back into theater if maybe you've been away from it for a while, or a great place to get your feet wet and try. This is a good place for that, and anything in between, and seasoned pros as well. We really try to meet everybody where they're at. So yeah, come do a show with us. We'd love to have you.
Okay, sideshow. How do people get tickets?
Tickets are live on our website, www.thestagetheaterok.com. That's right, I got it out. And there's a link, there's button tickets, and you go and you can purchase them. We are reserved seating, and we have I'd say a small intimate house. It's about 125, 130 seats. So we always encourage people to get their tickets in advance. But yeah, they can go online right now and get their tickets and come see this rarely done show that I think they will be fascinated and very moved by.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We'll have all those addresses in the show notes, so you guys can take advantage of that and definitely get involved with Upstage Theater and go out and see the show. So, Patrick, thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. For everybody else listening at home, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. We thank Patrick for being a part of it. And please, no matter what you do, continue to support the arts.
Oklahoma on stage, the spotlight burns so bright. Every tale and song, a starry guiding light. So tune in, folks, there's much to explore.